I call the member for South West Coast.
Thank you, Acting Speaker, and I rise to speak on the Gambling Legislation Amendment Bill 2025. So on the day that we have volunteer firefighters, farmers, businesses, shop owners, householders, renters, all out in front of the Parliament protesting in their thousands about the emergency services new tax that the government, this Allan Labor government, are imposing on all Victorians on the very day they're out there protesting, the day after our Treasurer says that there will be no more taxes. Here we are in the Parliament introducing, through this gambling legislation, a new tax. Now, the members on the other side have tried to carry on about the fact that that is not the case. Yet, in this bill, the Gambling Legislation Bill, Clause 7, which is actually on page 2, so you actually don't have to read too far into the bill to come across it. It actually says, and I quote, "The premium payment is a tax." The premium payment is a tax. Black and white. So this is a bill that contains several main provisions and several minor provisions that can be classified as legislative housekeeping, but the main provision revolve around predominantly changes to the gaming monitoring licence. Now, effectively, the government are using this opportunity that presents to them at the end of the contract, the 15-year contract that the current licence holder has, Intralock, to put out to tender the licence and have added in this opportunity the provision for a premium payment, which is the name for the new tax, as described, as I've said, in Clause 7 on page 2. Don't have to read too far into it to see the word quite clearly in black and white, tax. So this is a tax that is going to be placed on poker machines. Now, there has always been monitoring on poker machines through this Interlock licence that has invested in the technologies to monitor the poker machines. But this new premium payment aspect will be imposed on the new successful tender business, whoever that is, in 2027. But they'll also be introducing another new tax on the lottery players, and that is because that's never happened before. So it's nothing more than a tax grab. Now, it will go into consolidated revenue, and it will be at the government's discretion. We don't know whether it will be up front. We don't know whether it will be over the course of the licence. That is yet to be disclosed by the government. And we see from Labor this time and time again that they don't actually give you the details of the legislation. They wait and say, we'll put it in regulations. Now, that is their way of being sneaky, lacking transparency, and using this opportunity to reach into the pockets of hardworking Victorians and find every possible way to find more money because of their mismanagement of the budget over 10 years. So we will see another tax. Now, this is a government for the last 10 years that year on year has blown out the budget due to their cost blowouts on projects by an average of $14 billion year in, year out. And that's why we're seeing that we have now got a state debt higher than any other state in this nation and a debt heading towards $200 billion. Now that means every day Victorians will be funding that debt to the value of $29 million in interest payments. Now, can you imagine what that $29 million a day in Victoria that Victorian taxpayers are having to fund the government's mismanagement would do? How many hospitals could be built? Warrnambool Hospital needs an upgrade, was promised a $384 million build that would have covered the scope that the government themselves actually stated was needed and asked the community in my area to be patient until they got it right. So in 2020, they were told $384 million will be enough to build the hospital that meets the needs of our community. Lo and behold, because of government mismanagement and cost blowouts, that's now $100 million more because 30% increase have occurred on builds in this state, and much of that is because of taxes and mismanagement. But the government haven't listed in the budget an increase for Warrnambool Hospital so we can get the hospital that the government determined we needed, that asked our community to be patient and wait to get it right, and are now saying, sorry, not building it to scope, going to cut it. That's a government that you cannot trust, and a government that has made error after error in their managing of the budget. We have now a state that has more taxes than we've ever seen before. 62 new taxes, and these two here today. Not just one, but two. One on poker machines and the new one on lotteries. So that's, if I can just remind Victorians that we've got a vacant home tax. We've got stamp duty on transfers between spouses, that's a tax. The windfall gain tax on rezoned land, a bin tax on our rubbish, a school tax, a tax on students, a patient tax, that's a tax on people who are sick, a holiday and tourism tax, death tax, and of course the fire services levy tax that we saw thousands on the street today, just here in front of the Parliament. I saw the Minamite truck, the Viaduct truck, the Bessie Bell truck, the Karamat truck, the Adonaki truck coming into the Parliament today.
Member for South West Coast, you have a point of order. Member for Laverton.
Acting Speaker, on a point of relevance, the member has strayed so far from the bill at hand. If you could draw her back to the bill, and what we need to talk about today is as being wholly relevant to the bill.
I do note that the debate today has been very wide-ranging. However, I would ask the member for South West Coast to come back to the bill.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. And this is a bill that has in clause 7 on page 2 of the bill the fact that this is a bill introducing a new tax. And I am referring to the tax that this government has an addiction to, and I was referring also to the tax that one of the 62 taxes that this government passed last week, a tax on farmers, a tax on household, a tax on renters, a tax on business, a tax on hard-working Victorians. And I was pointing out that just today how thousands are on the steps of Parliament while this government pretends this is a tax that's supposed to help
If you could
volunteers.
take your seat, please. Member for South West Coast. Member for Footscray, on a point of order.
On relevance, Acting Speaker, the member has strayed way beyond the gambling bill that we are debating.
Thank you, member for Footscray. Member for South West Coast, as on the point of order.
This is a bill about a tax. I am speaking about a tax. Everybody has been talking about different taxes that have been introduced by this government, and I am staying very close to the bill.
Thank you, member for South West Coast. I don't hold that point of order. I will say that I did ask you to come back to the bill, and I do feel you strayed immediately and defied my ruling. Would you please come back to the bill? Thank you.
I'm discussing the gambling legislation amendment bill, which is actually a bill that introduces a tax, as is said in the bill on page 2, not very far into the bill. And I am talking about how this government has been addicted to taxes, greatly insulting the hard-working Victorians who are absolutely disgusted with the state the government has left our state in. And they were on the steps today protesting about this government who are trying to claim that volunteers are going to be given an advantage from the tax that this government has introduced.
Member for Footscray, on a point of order.
Acting Speaker, the member on her feet continues to defy your ruling, and I ask that you bring her back. She's like a broken clock over there. If you could bring her back to the bill at hand about gambling.
Thank you, member for Footscray. I would ask the member for South West Coast, you've made your point, I do believe. I would like to ask you to come back to the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, and I have 10 minutes and only 10 minutes to make my point about how this government is addicted to taxes, and I'll continue to make my point relevant about the taxes this government insults our community with.
I call the member for